Like, who is going to guarantee that these APIs are going to be used? Obviously, I feel like somewhere in the bill it says that it shouldn't compromise on security, and these APIs should be able to be called on, and they are stuff and there will be stuff that is still mandatory for an app. But who is going to enforce that? As a consumer, obviously a consumer is not going to stand in front of the Apple Store and say like, oh, I don't know, I don't want side loading, right? A general consumer is not going to be like that. But they will notice the consequences of it. Android, I'm not saying it's a very complicated experience, but it is less simple. There's a lot going on, and there are a lot of companies trying to pull you away from the Play Store. And discounts, skins, whatever you can get. Obviously, there is so many flashy stuff going on. Excuse me, do you know why we pulled you over today? Exactly, it's because you're not subscribed. So you better fix that right now, or we're gonna have to take you in. New App Store bill mistakes great products for market power, says Group. Okay. Hi, Group. Nice to meet you. I agree with you, Group. I don't know. Let's read it first before I agree with anyone. It's very important. Let's go to what we need to know. The American Enterprise Institute has blasted a new App Store build aimed... A new App Store bill? Is it build or bill? I don't know. Aimed at Apple and Google. Economics and antitrust expert Mark Jemison says the bill mistakes great products for market power. Smart guy. This Mark. I like this Mark. He also stated that the app economy built on iOS and Android was vibrant and robust. I like this guy. I like this guy. The Open App Market Act, introduced in the Senate last week, is the latest salvo against Americans who enjoy iPhones and Android phones. Other volleys have been from video game maker Epic Games, the European Union, several state attorneys general, there you go, and antitrust bills already being considered in Congress. Like these, the new proposed legislation is an example of policymakers mistaking great products for market power. I completely agree with this guy. Of the 47 business categories we studied, 16 were associated with firms that exhibited a strong preference for using mobile platforms. Most viewed iOS and Android as clear substitutes, or at least complements, implying that Apple and Google are in competition for the startup's business. Okay, so if I fully understand, let's just translate whatever happened here, because I feel like there are loads of huge words in here, like English is not my first language. I'm trying. Mark is coming in with his research, and he is saying that, according to the data that he has found, Apple and Google are stimulating growth and not suppressing developers. They're actually helping people with, like, obviously by creating this platform that is now as big as it is right now, partially obviously thanks to other companies as well, like in some percentages, in some statistics, also Microsoft, but for the most part, obviously, Apple and Google. And obviously, what he's also like referring to, and I agree with that, is that Android and iOS have very little things that actually differentiate it from each other. So if you would actually get this bill out there, apart from obviously this privacy and security features, they would be almost similar to each other, right? Because this thing of not sideloading, not having that backdoor in your phone, and obviously also not changing the entire way the system works, the operating system, to how Android works, with all the fragmentation, all the different app stores that you can have, wherever you can find your games to play with your friends. No, if you want to build for iOS, you just have one app store, and if you do not want to build for iOS, and your players still want to play your game, then they have to go to Android. That's it. It's just as simple as that. I feel like most iOS users do not want this fragmentation on the phone, and they rather have these developers just move to Android and never develop for iOS ever, than require us to either go out of the App Store or like ruin the entire experience of just having one App Store, having one central place for example, refunds, but also parental control that's also controlled by obviously APIs that are required by the App Store. I would say all sorts of security features like app tracking transparency, privacy reporting, screen time, which is also very important. Like, who is going to guarantee that these APIs are going to be used? Obviously, I feel like somewhere in the bill it says that it shouldn't compromise on security, and these APIs should be able to be called on, and they are stuff and there will be stuff that is still mandatory for an app. But who is going to enforce that? No one is. So you can put it in the bill, but who is going to enforce that? Do you want Apple to create an entire facility of people testing third-party apps and like make sure it's safe, or make sure the API is there and otherwise sue them? That's mental, dude. That's mental. So I do not think Android and iOS should look any more like each other, as it already does, right? If it is going to look more like Android, what's the reason to not just buy Android? Like, as a consumer, obviously a consumer is not going to stand in front of the Apple Store and say like, oh, I don't know, I don't want side loading, right? A general consumer is not going to be like that. But they will notice the consequences of it, right? They will notice that friends have a very simple experience. A very simple experience of an iPhone. If they are on Android, I'm not saying it's a very complicated experience, but it is less simple. There's a lot going on, and there are a lot of companies trying to pull you away from the Play Store. And discounts, skins, whatever you can get. Obviously, there is so many flashy stuff going on, because they all want you to get out of the Play Store, so they can, I don't know, give you the experience that they want you to have. And it's not something that general consumers are obviously consciously thinking about. They just see a more simplistic experience, a more easy experience, and it is, maybe it's subconscious. It's not something that obviously something is like my mom, for example, who likes phones for making phone calls, but also just having apps and as simple as possible. She's obviously not going to the store and say like, okay, well, I don't like side loading. I really do not like side loading. No, but she will indirectly notice the consequences of having side loading, right? If I tell her it's side loading, she wouldn't care. But if I would translate it into, okay, but this is going to be an experience of people constantly trying to take you away from the main experience, the main Play Store, all sorts of Daddy Sweeney's going dancing around and saying, well, you should download this app store, you should download that app store, you should download this, you should download that, because, well, the Google Play Store is not this, and then blah blah blah, and you can get discounts, and you can get this. It's going to be one big mess, right? And if I explain it to her in that way, she will understand that obviously she can still choose an Android phone. There's nothing wrong with an Android phone, especially if you want side loading, or maybe if you don't like side loading but you still like the Android experience, it's fine. But you can't tell me that iOS is not a more simple experience, and that people just pick it because it's a simple experience. And one of the main reasons, because it is one of the main reasons that it is a simpler experience is because there is no side loading. And with that, the whole effect of having that fragmentation, of having all sorts of people on different platforms, different versions of that platform, like an insane amount of apps that just are so scattered around on the internet, right? I feel like for the first 2 years, or for example Fortnite, they tried it to do with side loading. Now my mom is not going to play Fortnite, but let's say my mom or I was a lot younger, and she would buy a phone for me. She would obviously try and Google the problems with Android and iOS, and she would see, well, the first 2 years of these children downloading Fortnite, faulty, malicious APKs that would just take money away, run the phone into the ground, steal a lot of data, a lot of problems. And you have that less on iOS. Obviously, it's still there. Nothing is perfect. I'm not saying Apple is having a perfectly secure App Store, and there is no such thing as whatever, Ghost Xcode or whatever. Obviously, these things are there. But you can't tell me that the track record from Android is the same as iOS. Right? And most of these problems are coming from outside the Play Store. The Play Store itself is generally safe, right? I'm not saying that it's as safe as, for example, the App Store, but right, you know what I mean.